Welcome back to 498. I'm Dr. Tony Palmeri, and I'm joined by one of my former students, and also now one of my heroes. This is Christiana Trapani, and I mean that, Christiana. Since you've graduated, have become such an activist. You're the founder, owner, co-owner, I guess, with your husband, Nick, of the Door County Candle Company. And we'll talk about that shortly. But before we get to that, you've told the story many times. Can you tell people what happened in your Com 219 class? That was somewhat of a transformative moment for you.
It was. I talk about this moment a lot, and I really think it was like my big transformative moment in college, and I really think it was a big turning point for me. I was always in college. I was fine and content, I guess, being the student that sat in back and didn't raise my hand and just wanted to get by, get the passing grade and get by and just kind of be good enough and not really put a ton of effort in, but enough to pass. And Dr. Palmeri called me out for it, which was actually the best thing that could have happened. So what happened was I remember I written a paper, and I got my not that report card, but I got my grade back, and Dr. Palmeri had written a note, and to sum it up, it basically said, you're not going to get anywhere. You're not going to get very far in life if you're always sitting in the back of the room and not using your voice. And I remember kind of like, I was at first, I was so mad. I was so mad. I was livid. I was mad. And then it really was transformative in the sense that, he was right. I noticed, I took a step back and I realized I was sitting in the back of every room. I was quiet. I wasn't engaging. I wasn't using my voice. I wasn't speaking up. I wasn't really living up to my potential that I didn't even realize that I had. And so at first, from being angry, I took that and I used it. And I really feel like it's kind of what made me, it was like a complete flip, night and day difference. I started
Wow.
to raise my hand. I started to, even if I think the biggest thing was I was afraid sometimes to answer. I didn't only answer to, well, you know what?
Mhm.
Still try. I mean, still raise your hand, still give an effort, use your voice. Because if you don't use your voice, I mean, how are you going to make a difference? How are you going to make a change? How are you going to make an impact? And that was really the best thing that honestly could have happened to me.
I love that story, Christiana, not because it allows me to pat myself on the back, but so often as a teacher, you wonder, does feedback have any impact? And over the course of my long teaching career, there have been so many students that have sat quietly, and I have not given them that kind of feedback. But often there are people like you that I'm sitting there, or I'm standing there and I'm thinking, this person strikes me as really brilliant, but it seems like there's something bottled up there. Right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And what like you had always kind of like gone through school, the one that kind
Yeah.
of you did well. And I think that's what it was for me, Christiana. I remember in that class, you were writing really good papers and you seemed really smart and you were never like disruptive. And I just thought there's something there. And part of me thought, okay, maybe she's someone who needs a little push. And it turned out that's what it
Yeah.
was, wasn't it?
Yes, it was absolutely what I needed. And, I think a lot of it was I was content kind of just passing and getting by. I think for me, I never thought, I always like sitting in a class, I'm always like, oh, well, that person's really, really smart. That person's really, really smart. I'm not that smart. So I'm just going to be back here. I don't want to embarrass myself. I don't want to say a silly answer. But by doing that, you just kind of become there. You're just in the mix of like a
Right.
crowd of faces, and you're never going to stand out, and you're never going to be your own person or really make a difference or make an impact in anything if you are just trying to just get by. And that was always my kind of in school. I just like, I worked hard. I did, I worked hard, but then I just kind of stayed quiet. And it really wasn't until Dr. Palmeri wrote that I really opened my eyes to, oh wow, like how am I going to amount to greatness if I'm not using this for anything?
And you then did decide, now maybe you had already decided before that moment, but you did decide to go to grad school at that point, right?
Yeah, it really, I mean, I go back to what you said honestly, because that comment and that kind of transformative mindset made me realize, you know what? Like, I always thought I couldn't go to grad school because I wasn't good enough or wasn't smart enough for it. And I thought, you know what? No, no, I am. And after that comment, I was raising my hand more, speaking more, and I started to gain a lot of confidence in myself. And I'm like, maybe I'm smarter than I give myself credit for. And from there, I then applied to grad school. I'm like, you know what? I'm going to apply to grad school. Like, I think I can do this. And then what was really cool was, again, that was this Dr. Palmeri's comment. That was the start, and then it kind of progressed from there. And then grad school, I got in. It was funny because I taken my test. I got a perfect score in reading, writing. I failed the math, which was not surprising because math's not my strong suit. They let me in. I got in on probationary period, and then I ended up getting a full ride and a 4.0 for my
Was
two.
this at Milwaukee or Marquette?
Yeah, Marquette, Milwaukee.
Okay.
And then I ended up getting a full ride and a 4.0. And I was the student, I was coming in, sitting the front row, raising my hand, always the one speaking. Like, I was just so like, and I keep like saying this, but it was all because of that. And it literally led me to that, which is just something
Wow.
I always talk about, because it really it was one of those aha moments, you know?
Well, when I hear stories like that, it just inspires me to want to keep, giving people feedback. It gets frustrating because, the other part I like about that story, Christiana, is that you said you were angry and upset at first. And I think you've learned now as a successful businesswoman, you have to be able to take substantive
Yeah.
feedback,
Oh yeah,
right?
absolutely.
If you, and there are so many people that cannot take feedback.
No, no,
And
no.
you've learned that you can't take everything personally and you've got to kind of keep your eyes on the prize, right?
100%. None of us are perfect, and there's always room for growth, and there's always room for learning. I always say, like, I joke, but I'm serious. Every day's a school day. I mean, you're always learning something, and you have to take constructive feedback, or, I mean, it's really kind of like, bluntly, it's cocky to think you know everything, because you don't.
You
So
don't.
it's good to know, like, keep your mind open and try to understand where this feedback and perspective is coming from, because you can absolutely learn and grow from it.
Absolutely. And then, so you got your grad degree and then you went into, was it graphic design?
So I was doing social media marketing
All right.
for this really small, like just this really small marketing agency. And then it was kind of like, it was okay. I learned a lot, but it wasn't really like organized. It was like a 3 person, it was small. So I was like, I want to do something else. So then from there I went to do marketing, mostly writing, but also marketing for a B2B e-commerce software company in Milwaukee for just under 2 years.
Wow. And did you enjoy that?
No, I hated it.
Oh,
I hated
no.
it, I hated it.
Why?
It was so dry. During it, during that time, I realized, my boss was not a very good boss. He wasn't a good. I wanted him so badly to be a good mentor. He ended up not being any of that. He actually, looking back now, tried to be like, kind of like, take ideas that were mine, try to belittle me, which was a really good learning experience. Um, but I didn't like the work I was doing. There was no room for creativity. And I had a lot, like, I wanted to do, but I couldn't, because it was B2B e-commerce and there wasn't a ton to do with it. And there's one like distinct day I always remember. And I was driving to work, and I was stuck in traffic, bumper to bumper. I wasn't moving. And I was like sitting in my car, and it was like a very like specific moment. And I was just thinking, like, this is not my life. I am destined for greater things. I just don't know yet what it is. And I remember in that moment, I'm like, but I want to figure it out, because it's not this job. And then it was like, I think, I don't know, 8 months later, I kind of, the candle company came into my
And
life.
did you get married while you were in Milwaukee?
Yes, I did. Yeah, thinking
All
about it. Yeah,
right. And so then so Nick is your husband.
yep.
So you and he decided together to start something in Door County?
Yeah, so it was during COVID and I was stuck. My job had gone remote, so I already didn't like my job. And then being stuck in a condo in the city, I was like, I really was just kind of going a little, I was like, I'm getting stir crazy. And so we decided to open a gift box business. So Door County delivered all local products, and we had the first one was actually a fundraiser for a theater that had to cancel their most their biggest event to raise money for the season. So we ended up doing gift boxes for them, and we ended up helping them raise a lot of money for it. So anyway, we were making those boxes, and part of the boxes were wholesaling local products, and one of those was candles. And so I had it was my second visit to the candle company, and I had never met the owner, so it was my second time even meeting him. I went in to get my order, and he walked me to the car, and he had said, Christiana, I'm looking to retire, and I'm wondering if you'd like to buy the business. I think you'd be a great fit. And that was it. He told me that he just had like a gut feeling that I'd be the right kind of the right person for it, which I think is, I mean, incredible. And then 6 months later, I officially took over as the owner.
Buying a business has got to be a pretty
Oh,
risky,
yes.
intimidating maneuver. I mean,
Oh, yeah.
what finally pushed you to say, yeah, we'll do this?
Yeah, it was terrifying. I actually didn't give my notice to quit from my job until we had the closing date for the business, which was 2 weeks prior to closing. So I was somehow doing both jobs at the same time. I was working at the candle company, trying to learn the ropes. It was terrifying, and it was an emotional roller coaster because like it was constantly up and down, up and down, up and down. It was really, 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 really hard. And when we bought it, it didn't get any easier. It was also really, really hard. And the business was a seasonal business, so they were only come November to April to May. Actually, it's only open weekends. And so I remember,
Pretty much, correct me if I'm wrong, isn't almost every business in Door
yeah.
County seasonal?
Yes, yes, yes. They're mostly all seasonal. And I remember thinking, I was like, I'm going to be open every day. And November 1, I'm going to have so many customers. It's going to be awesome. And November 1, no one came. I had no customers. November 2nd, no one came. I had no customers. And I remember that day, I was like, what have I done? What have I done? This is a terrible decision. Like I was freaking out. And
Because you guys are on Highway 42, right?
yep. Mm-hmm.
A
And
place where during those spring and summer months,
so busy.
thousands of cars,
Yes.
but the winter months, nothing.
Nothing. And it took about, now I'm in year 4. It'll be in June, it's my 4th year of owning it. And people know we're open year round, but it's still really quiet in winter. And it's something that and the older didn't have a website. He didn't have an email list. So I really had to, from the ground up, build all of that.
All right. So in a very tragic way that I know you wish had never happened, the Russian invasion of Ukraine ended up being something that did help your business,
Yeah. And
right?
it changed my life, and it changed the course of the business.
So just to make sure people understand, you are Ukrainian.
Mhm.
You have family in Ukraine. And what was the date of the war that it started?
Actually, yesterday, the 24th, was the 3-year anniversary.
February 24th
Yep.
of 2025 was the 3-year anniversary. So when that horrible day happened 3 years ago, did you and Nick immediately say, obviously you're looking after you have family there, right?
Yeah. Yes.
All right. So I'm sure you immediately were checking up on your family, what's going on.
Yep.
But at what point did you say, we're going to make a Ukraine candle?
So Yes, you're spot on. The first moments were calling family, checking in, and really just being in like shock. And then we had actually had a Ukraine candle that we had made about 2 months prior for a
Oh,
Ukrainian Catholic school fundraiser. It was very small, didn't really sell very many. We had about 7 extra candles. And so for me, I was like, great, 7 extra candles. We have enough. So let's use this candle and let's donate all the profits to Razum, which is a nonprofit that actually my aunt and uncle in New Jersey volunteer at. So I did my vetting, did all my research. They were very transparent, very honest. I was like, they're the right group to support. And then that day, actually the next day, I kind of wrote a script out. I wanted to shoot a video at the shop. And I remember I shot it, and Nick was like, you should just go talk from your heart. You're not like you're being really scripted. That's not like you. Just speak from your heart. And that's what I did. I made the video, and then from there we ended up the candle just went over. It went viral really, overnight. And then we've been able to raise and donate over $1 million from it.
that's absolutely amazing. And it also sparked this idea for you that maybe your entire business could have this kind of civic slash charitable focus. So, how many other types of what do you refer to, like mindful candles? Like, what do you refer to them
Yeah.
as?
So yeah, 100%. And the Ukraine candle really was the catalyst to change really the whole business into being philanthropic. So we have a support a cause line that we use for like natural disasters, so hurricanes, fires, earthquakes, natural disasters. We launched this line. So like we did one for the recent California wildfires. We raised over $18,000 in a month for them.
Wow.
The Maui wildfires, we raised $60,000. So we have that line. And then from there, we then changed our whole business model. So anytime you buy anything that we make, we donate a portion to nonprofits. And every year we do an impact report and we share what charities we donated to. And then from there, we built a fundraising program where any nonprofit and any school can fundraise and get a percentage of our candle sales, no risk or anything. And that was something we wanted to help as many groups as we could, and we wanted to find a way to do it. So that's why we built this virtual fundraising program.
That's absolutely just absolutely incredible that you're doing that. And this is obviously giving your business a lot more notoriety. I mean, do you get a lot more foot traffic now in the shop?
Oh yeah, a lot more. Yes, and the when we launched the Ukraine candle, we had months of lines that before we were open, we would have, I mean, 100 people in line just in the parking lot in circles waiting to get in. And now people still come in for the Ukraine candle just to see the honorary check on our bookshelf, and it's very humbling, and it's really incredible that the response it still is getting.
And you've had to hire people, correct? I mean, at first it
Yeah,
was basically what you and your husband and immediate family that were making candles. But now,
yeah.
how many people work for Door
So
County
now,
Candle now?
now we have 3 candle makers, and we
Full
have
time?
one full-time candle maker, 2 part-time, and then we have 3 full-time people actually total. And in me, I guess that's 4 full-time people, and then we have I think we have 9 or 10 people total now.
I'm sure that 3, 4 years ago, you could not have imagined
No,
that.
no, 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 not even a little bit.
So, for students who may be listening, or anyone who may be listening who has this dream of starting a small business, are there any pieces of advice you could give them?
Yeah, I would say a few things. A big thing is perseverance. So you're
Uh,
gonna go through a lot of really difficult situations. A lot of times people, and this is in life in general, but people like to see the easy parts. They think it's the you're your own boss, you have your own schedule. Well, they don't see that you're up all night because of X, Y, and Z, or you
Right.
never get to really shut it off. High risk, high reward, really. So perseverance. Also, you have to be able to adapt to like any situation quickly because it's you and you need to figure it out. You can't just be like, oh, I don't know what to do. You have to make a decision and sometimes really, really quickly. And another thing I always say is just trust your gut. I mean, that's something, try to trust my gut in situations. It's typically always right. So really just trust your gut, persevere, and just, know that there's going to be ups and downs.
Well, a
It's
good example is, isn't it true that you're starting a new product line,
yes, yeah.
non-alcoholic drinks?
Yes, and this has been terrifying, really. It's been very terrifying, but awesome at the same time. So we're launching that in May, and it's a non-alcoholic cocktail. So we have four, and we're also putting in our philanthropy into that. So we're calling it Sips for Sustainability. So we're donating to start 1% of all sales to sustainability efforts for like the earth and water and kind of wellness. So we're
And aren't
starting.
they going to
100%.
aren't they going to be called Luba libations?
Yes, and
Where
Luba is
does the
my
name come from?
yes, excellent question. So Luba is my grandma's name, and it is also rooted in the Ukrainian word for love. So it's kind of like a double,
Oh,
double one. And we have four,
I
four,
love it.
four flavors, and one of them is really fun because it kind of pays homage to my Ukrainian heritage. It's called the Kyiv Mule, and the word Moscow is crossed out. So that'll be a really fun one.
This is incredible. Well, I wish you much luck with that. I know it's going to succeed.
Thank you. I'm excited about that one. It's gonna be a lot of fun.
Yeah, I'll bet. When you look back now, how has, forget about what happened in COM 219, how has the communication studies education in general impacted your life?
You know, it was funny this morning. I like woke up thinking about like how has calm changed my life, and it's funny because I kind of came to the, I came to the conclusion that calm studies is it's from what I've learned is literally in everything I do every single day, and that's
Wow.
because it has helped me with my verbal communication. I have a lot of interviews. I have talking to customers, talking to this. It's constant verbal communication. It's written communication. It's doing press releases. It's doing emails. It's doing just effectively speaking and effectively writing. It's my for debate. It's about being able to come to an argument. If you're, having like a discussion or an argument, but you have to have your facts. Come prepared. Don't just use your emotion and jump to something. Have your facts. It's all about rhetoric, the words you use and how you say them and what they mean. And it's really in quite literally, and that's why I said it's in everything I do every single day. I use a part of my comm studies degree in everything I do every day.
It's also taught you some assertiveness. I know that you've had situations where vendors will come into your shop and they don't want to believe that this young woman owns this place.
Yep.
How does that feel when that
Oh
happens?
yeah, that happens more than you I wish to admit, but comm has absolutely taught me to use your verbal communication, communicate effectively, communicate clearly. And I joke, but like I like to shame them in a way that they don't even realize that I'm shaming them. And
Good for
it's
you.
just, it's like Nick always jokes, like I do it in the nicest way where you're really not sure, like, but it really, I've had a lot of vendors who come in and they never like to think I'm the owner. They'll look to my face, say I want to talk to someone in charge. And recently I said, oh, that's me. And they laughed and said, you're in charge. And it's like, is this really like, are we really having this conversation? And in situations like that where you're underestimated, people assume, because of my age, being a female, whatever, comm has helped me come to that with effective communication to really tell them in a great way that yeah, I am.
Well, you were named an outstanding young alumni. Was that 2023, I
Yes,
believe?
I have my brick on my desk. Yeah, 2023.
Oh, cool. And I'm sure, I know you're very busy, but I'm sure you would be more than willing to respond to any kind of
Oh
inquiries.
my gosh.
Yeah.
Yes, I love speaking to anyone who about anything, and questions, comments, anyone like who kind of feels like maybe they were in my shoes and need a little push or a boost or advice or anything. I love being able to talk to students. I love
Yeah,
it.
and I'm sure you would agree, every single student can be an outstanding young alumni.
Yes, 100%. I never thought I would be one. I never thought I'd win an award. I never thought I would win an award, let alone an outstanding alumni award ever. So yes, anyone has the ability and power to be a young a outstanding young alumni. 100%.
Well, thank you for doing what you do. Like I said, you're one of my heroes now, and
So
I think
sweet.
I probably talk about you more in the classroom than any other former student.
God, that's an honor. Thank you. Well, I
Yeah.
was at a panel a panel a few months ago, and I talked about my comm paper and you, which is what a story I always talk about because it was a big defining moment in my life.
Well, that's so great. I will let you go. Thank you so much, and I cannot wait to taste some of those libations.
I'll
That
send
sounds
you
great. All right.
Thank you.